Guaranteed he gets in my line of sight.
I know.
1,000,000%. I'm going to tune into this from Indy on Thursday just to see what it looks like.
I'll be on Thursday.
I know. Okay. Is that good? Okay, thanks.
Any extras out there, Bob?
I don't know. I was just thinking, I can't even tell who's who now. And I got to watch it on the TV.
Foodie's number 19. Yeah. That's exciting.
Is this sponsored, Andy? Yeah, presented by OhioHealth. There it is. Thanks. If I look at the screen, I'll know.
Where's Russ?
I know he's around here somewhere, bud. Emil Bemstrom.
What are we doing, Andy? Are we looking at the camera? Are you going to tell me when we're on camera? Are doing replays or anything like that? You going to cut away to action? Okay, you just give me in my ear. Let me know what sometimes if there's something to be seen.
If there's something on the screen, I'll lead you. Talk about certain.
Okay.
Will Anthony be able to hear? Okay. Welcome to the OhioHealth Ice Haus, where today it is essentially Training Camp 2.0. Columbus Blue Jackets back in action today, getting set to resume the NHL season. The pause officially ends today with this training camp opening. I'm Bob McElligott. Jody Shelley is with me, socially distanced, of course, here on JacketsTV Daily, presented by OhioHealth. And Jody, you know, on the way down here, I was just realizing how long it's been since I've been in this building. Same time as you. Way back in March was the last time that we were here. And it's the last time the players were here, the last time we saw any kind of drills going on, last time we saw any NHL hockey.
Yeah, and it's just like a regular training camp, right? I mean, honestly, it has that feel where it's you've had your summer, it's warm outside, and of course it's different circumstances. But you're right, Bob. It's been a while since we've been in this building, but it sure is nice to be back, and you can sense it right away from the energy on the ice. There's a lot of jump, and these guys, it just seems like they're thrilled to be around each other and actually doing something that's normal and something they dream about almost every day.
Yeah, I like how you said that. It's absolutely true. Something that's normal, which life hasn't been for quite some time. But you're seeing it right now. Guys just going through drills on the ice here in day one of this camp. Now, the way this is going to work, they'll be here in Columbus for a couple of weeks. Going through these daily drills, and then they will move on to Toronto, Ontario, and that's where the games are going to be played for the Eastern Conference. That is going to be the hub city for the Eastern Conference, and ironically, the Blue Jackets will take on the Toronto Maple Leafs in a play-in series, a best-of-5 play-in series, starting on August the 2nd. But, Jody, one thing, when you look at the ice out here today, there's a lot of guys that we haven't seen in quite a while. A lot of players that were not healthy when last the Blue Jackets played a real game. They have regained their health, with the exception of Josh Anderson. Everybody's out here. Everybody's ready to go. And John Tortorella right there in the middle of the ice, all smiles as he has a camp going once again.
Yeah, he looks really healthy. Torts does. And he's probably enjoyed, I think everyone's made the most of their time, but I think he's a guy that enjoys that those stables and rescuing those dogs, so he's had some quality time. But, Bob, you brought up a great point. We always talk about, players injured, and over the past 3 months, we talked about the possibility of having some key members of this organization back and healthy who dealt with injury. And I look at Bjorkstrand, who's smiling, Jones, who's out there, but then the people around him. I mean, when you're on a team, you really genuinely care about your teammates on that level of you're concerned about them, and you notice and you feel it when they're gone. But when they come back, it's something we don't talk about much, but it gives a pump to the locker room when you look over and you see that player that's been out and missed all the time, all the practice time, all the meals, all those games, those big moments. Not only do you miss them on the ice, but they've missed being with you. And when you get them back, you are so excited for that individual to finally put that jersey on. So I sense a little bit of that today in the excitement. Of course, the excitement of being here for these players. Man, there's a lot of jump out there on the ice, but I think it adds to it. That little extra is to have those guys that were injured, who were down in the doldrums when they left here in March. They're back out there, and it's like, okay, this is exciting on many levels for these guys.
Yeah, because this is a team that was never together from day one until the day the NHL paused. There was always somebody injured, it seemed. It was usually a big-name player. Seth Jones was the biggest name. His guys were dropping all through the course of the season. Atkinson, Bjorkstrand a couple of times, actually. They were able to weather the storm until Seth Jones went down. And then that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. It looked like they were just starting to adjust to that in that last road trip. They came up with a big win in Vancouver to put themselves in good position to try to make the playoffs, coming back at home to play Pittsburgh. But, Seth Jones, he was the difference, and there he is right there. So great to see him back. And Seth Jones is a guy that may be ahead of the curve, Jody, because we talked to him during the pause. Since he was injured, since he was on injured reserve, he was still in here getting his treatments. He was working out, and he was one of the few guys in the National Hockey League that was on the ice pretty much every day.
Yeah, and he's had this date circled for a long time. No concrete date until a couple weeks ago, but you know what? He was been through the whole process. He's waited his moments. He's done the rehab. He's had Bjorkstrand, which is the strangest thing, that 2 weeks after Seth Jones broke his ankle, Bjorkstrand had the same injury, and kind of followed him. I think he mentored him through that rehab and said, okay, this is where you're at. You're frustrated, but if you stick with it, you're going to get to this stage. So, they had some good camaraderie going during the rehab phase. And when you get through it and you get back with your team, it's worth all the hard work. And you mentioned some important things there. I go back to the Tampa series last year, and I will keep going back to that because it was so spectacular and some things that happened. But when Tampa lost Hedman, I think we understood his value a little bit. But when the Blue Jackets lost Jones, I think that's when we understood what Tampa lost in that number one D. I mean, there's not many number one D in the league. But when Seth Jones left, we knew he wasn't going to be replaced. But it took guys to step up in different areas. And, they did. So they had to battle the adversity all year. Another thing you said is the group has not been together. A key now for this camp is to keep these guys together. Health, there's a few factors that are going to be immense during this unknown tournament where you have to get through the 2 weeks, get into the bubble, stay healthy, away from the terrible virus, but also stay healthy in the sense of an athlete and, his ligaments and muscles and bones. But they've got to make sure that they can get through this and really keep this team healthy. That's going to be a key factor throughout the next 2.5 months.
And it'll be interesting to watch, too, because, again, as we talk to guys week in and week out during the pause, workouts was something we talked a lot about.
That's
them
right.
with.
Well, it's probably the only thing we talked about, wasn't it?
just about, unless they got a new dog or something.
A new dog. Those are great conversations.
But when we talked about the workouts, they were all in a similar situation where they said that, they were working out, but first of all, it depended upon what they had at home because they couldn't get into a gym. They couldn't get into the rink. And the other thing was, what kind of workouts do you do? Are you doing off-season workouts? Are you doing in-season workouts? When are you going to get back to work? So, everybody was on a different page, and now we're going to find out what page you're all on now.
Well, I think that, as a professional athlete, your engine, your motor it's never really off. Okay, if it's a regular season and you get beat out of the playoffs, you'll take 2 or 3 weeks where you're eating whatever you want. You're not sleeping much. You're just off the rails. But there's some days in there where you're thinking, okay, I don't want to get too far out of shape because, I want to get ahead. My off season is an opportunity to get ahead a little bit. I want to get more power play time. I want to be a better skater. I want to impact the lineup more. So you can't really say that their engines have been off. Now, has it been easy? No, because not knowing when you're coming back, not having a time to get back, a real concrete time, is tough. But they have Nelson Ayotte, who's head of, he does all the sports science stuff. and Kevin Collins, who's the strength coach. They have a great team. They've been in contact with these guys. And the other thing, Bob, with John Tortorella and his coaching staff, keeping the players engaged a little bit with some trivia, some phone calls. The guys have had Zoom calls. It keeps you connected. So it's not like they've been away from here not thinking about hockey. There's been a few priorities otherwise, obviously, at times. But when hockey is on your mind all the time like it is for these guys, you're ready to go. These guys look good. It's early in practice. I know there's a lot of excitement and emotions going through them right now. But the biggest thing is they're back together as a team. So they look like there's not a lot of guys. I don't see many guys that are 20 and 30 pounds out of shape. You know what I mean?
No. Maybe me, but not them. You're right.
Oh, you look good. No. You lose a few pounds?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I did. By default, I guess. Eating healthier, not eating late night on the road after games. It's amazing how that'll change you, right?
Oh, you do that. I didn't know you did that.
On occasion.
You go back to the room and order nachos.
Yeah, right. Hey, let's talk about another couple of guys. One guy that we didn't talk about a lot this season because he got hurt early, and he was a big subject of last year's playoffs because he was making his NHL debut, and that's Alexander Texier. He's another guy that's back on the ice out here. He is healthy. He had that back injury, basically had a broken back, and he was laid up for months, but he's back. He is skating here, and this is the first group. The whole roster has been divided into two groups, and there you see Texier right now. This is the playing group as of today. This will change probably on a daily basis, but this would be the playing group. The next group will skate later this afternoon, and that's your Black Aces group, or the guys that are in reserve in the case of injuries or, heaven forbid, sickness as we operate under these circumstances. But anyway, there's been a lot of question about some of the guys that are not in this group, but they're in the other group. Two guys in particular, Nathan Gerby and Kevin Stenlund, who did a very good job for the Blue Jackets when they were called upon this year. But with Texier coming back, that automatically bumps one of those guys. And the other reason a guy is bumped is because Liam Foudy, who was a former first-round pick a couple of years ago and a guy that we saw in just a few games when he came in from the Ontario Hockey League this year, he's in this camp. And John Tortorella fell in love with him in those two games that he played. And he loves his speed. He loves his skill. And if it was going to start right now today, Liam Foudy would be in that lineup.
Well, John Tortorella is an intelligent guy, and he does this, anytime that he thinks his group needs fresh blood, that young spark, that new person to bring that youthful energy, he does it. I mean, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago now? Gabriel Carlson steps into the first round series against Pittsburgh Penguins. Welcome to the National Hockey League. You talked about Texier. Okay. Tampa Bay Lightning. He had a couple games under his belt, regular season, but he jumps in against the Lightning last year. It's not a bad move. He's got it. He likes speed. He likes youthful enthusiasm. He trusts Jarmo Kekalainen in his scouting report, and he's created competition. And there's nothing a coach or an organization or a business, I don't care where you are, when you have competition, you're getting the best out of people. So accountability comes in many ways, but one is ice time and earning your practice group, and I think that's what Torch has gone with here. So you knew it was going to come, Bob. We talk about it all the time at the back of the bus. Who's going to be the player that emerges out of nowhere and gets to be in Torch's lineup? Well, Foudy starts here in this group. The veterans like Gerby, who are over there, I think he's a guy that, he's going to battle his way into this group. We're going to see him in here. And Stenlund's a player who's built up some, as Torch put it in his bank account, he's got some good things. So anyone that hiccups or has a little stumble, guess what? There's people knocking on the door that do not want to be a part of that. What is it, 3 o'clock practice this afternoon?
Yes.
It bruises your ego. It makes you stay up at night. It gives you heartburn. It's not good. They all want to be here, and there'll be some players that'll be moved around. So that's a key factor to what they're doing here. I want to touch on Texier because this player, to me, when you watch any, they call it, in football, they call it film. We'll call it hockey tape or whatever you want to call it here. Texier jumps off the ice. When you watch clips of the Blue Jackets, which we did over the past 4 months from time to time, or I did, I don't know what you did, but he's a player, this guy could have a huge impact. And I think he will have a huge impact. He skates hard, he shoots hard, he passes the puck hard. And when you look at opportunities, he's starting on a line with Dubois and Bjorkstrand. And there's one interesting thing about that line. Those guys have all become very good buddies. They hang out a lot. They talk. When we talked to Dubois, he mentioned that he was in touch with Bjorkstrand a lot and Texier. They're both French-speaking people. So, you know what? There's a lot of different dynamics, but I think Texier could be that X factor that every team looks for.
And let's not forget, all of that stuff is true, but this team going into the pause was not lighting the world on fire when it came to offense and scoring goals. This team was winning with defensive goaltending. And when you get into this postseason, more offense. I know you still win with the defensive goaltending, but they've got to get more offense. And a guy like Alexander Texier showed last year in that little sample size and early this year that he can do that. And Liam Foudy, I think the same thing. The speed, Torts loves the speed with him. And he's coming off another 68-point season in the Ontario Hockey League this year. 28 of those points came through goals. He needs some more pop in the lineup, and he's hoping these two young guys can bring some of that pop.
That's a great point, and we raved about the players that brought the depth to the organization when the injuries arose, and they've actually fought and willed their way back into the playoff picture. If you remember the way they started, there was a lot of veterans who started this year slow, very slow. They couldn't find the back of the net. They couldn't find their rhythm. And it took those players to come up, the depth to come in and help spark and ignite and play that lockdown style and grind games out. Yeah, they can't forget that. That's going to be a key. You cannot come into camp and think, okay, they do have a fresh slate, but you can't come in and think, okay, I'm going to come down the wing and put a top shelf and line up at center ice in game one. You've got to respect that, hey, you found your identity throughout the season, and now the teams that remember what they are and get back to it right away, which I think with their head coach, they'll be reminded on a probably minute-by-minute basis here. That's the identity they have to play with.
A little meeting here with John Tortorella getting his team together over in front of the bench. And one of the interesting things with this camp is John Tortorella. We all know how he runs a regular training camp. This is not a regular training camp, obviously. So how is he running this one? And it'll be interesting. We're going to have him on the Inside Edge, our radio show, on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And that's one of the first things that I want to get to with him, because he told us, week 2 of the pause, Jody, when we talked to him, that he had scenarios set up for a 1-week camp, a 2-week camp. This one turns out to be basically a 3.5, 4-week camp before it's all said and done when you count here, and then going up to Toronto and playing some exhibition games and all that stuff. So I'm interested to see what adjustments that he has made. You can't bury these guys in this camp. You can't overskate them like you do in the camp before the regular season starts. He's got to take a whole new approach here.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's been around a long time. He's a guy who's a good self-evaluator, and he knows that. I mean, you got to be smart, and he's got good people around him, not just the coaching staff, but the management here with the Blue Jackets. And I know they've had healthy and honest conversations, and Torts, you can't just, this isn't 10 years ago, and Torts knows that. This is a unique situation. He's dealt with injuries all season, and they did some great things, but now's not a time to, push anyone too hard. So I think athletes will push themselves anyways, but those skating tests and those endurance, it's really mental toughness tests, those have been done for the season. I think there's other ways to mentally check and make sure these guys are ready and ready for the grind of being in the bubble. I mean, I read a great article the other day by Tom Reed, and I think it's DK Sports in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Who Tom Reed's working with. And you know what? It was the mental, the grind that these guys are going to be in for. And in the article, they talked to, members who were in the space station for months and almost, I think, years actually. And what the mind can do and how you have to get prepared. And 2 weeks in, you're going to have players or people acting out. There's a human nature element to this. We think 2 weeks, 2 weeks by yourself in a hotel room, just doing limited things. It's not easy. And so I think that there's a part of this preparation. It's not going to be the skating test or such, but there's going to be a mental toughness and a mental awareness part of this from John Tortorella and his staff that gets these guys ready for that, because I think the teams that prepare and are aware of those situations and not going to be surprised by them when they arise will benefit immensely throughout this.
No, I think you're right. That's a really good point. And, just think of what all of us have gone through. And 2 weeks at home when you're not used to being able to go anywhere was a mental adjustment. Now you're thinking about going 2 weeks in a hotel, like you said. And I know that they've got it they have an area. They're not going to be trapped inside of the room. There will be somewhat of an area that'll be quarantined that they'll be able to operate in, but it's certainly not going to be like normal life.
No, you almost got to go back to the 12-year-old age group when you were 12 years old, and you could have pizza in the lobby with your teammates, and then your mom and dad were like, "Okay, time to go up to bed. It's time to go to the hotel room." And then you get the wake-up call, and what do? You just put your stuff on, go down for that buffet breakfast, and then you all carpool. And I guess if you played on a AAA team, you get on the team bus, you go to the rink, and when you come home, you go hang out at the pool, or you go take a nap. I think it's going to be the first playing round. I think there's going to be no problem with, they're going to be excited. There's still going to be the charm on it. You get into the first round and the second round, that's where the grind takes place, I think, because, I love the leadership in this group. I love Nick Foligno. He's got excitement. This is an opportunity. He sees this as an opportunity. Now, with 30 guys, is there anyone maybe drifting and thinking, "Oh, are we really going to do this?" To be in all honest with you, probably in the next 10 or 12 or 14 days, there's going to be someone or a couple or a group of guys that are going to be sitting around saying, "Oh, I don't know, man. Is this worth it?" And it's up to the leadership to keep this thing focused. And I think that with Nick Foligno and his excitement and that message of, hey, we have a real opportunity here to keep your mind sharp and fresh and focused, I think that's going to be a huge factor in that second and third round. First and second round. When you get to the third round, Bob, there's only 4 teams left. And that's when everyone realizes, hey, we talked about, well, we have a chance. And everyone has that talk today. Oh, you really have a great opportunity. You don't believe it. You don't really, you believe it, but you don't really believe it and understand it until you get to that. There's 4 teams left, okay? Grind it out for another 5 weeks, and you could be hoisting the cup. And it's guys that are longer in their career. It's guys that understand the opportunity. It's having younger players that understand what the message is. I'd be interested to talk to guys like Zach Werenski, who I consider a full-time hockey guy. Like Zach Werenski, I see him play video games and think about hockey. I think he's going to love and lock this down with that attitude. And I think that more guys like Zach and Nick and Torts and the coaching staff that can keep everyone focused, that's going to be the grind in the first and second round.
And you're absolutely right with all of that. And every team is going to go through it. Like when you were talking about, will anybody want to get to a point where you almost want to mentally check out, where you're saying, is this worth it? And every single team in this league is going to go through that. Every single team that goes deep is going to go through that. It's not something that is only going to happen to the Blue Jackets.
Well, just think about this. Okay, so you're going to go through a 2-week camp. There's going to be 8 teams that are going to be done after the play-in round, okay? And 4 in the West, 4 in the East. So that's it. They're going to be done. They're going to do all this, and then they're going to be back to the off-season until December or January. And how many players are going to drift? Yeah, it's going to happen where you're going to think, it's too hard, or it's not worth it, or I'd rather be, the weather's great. I'm just being honest. And I think that's where I think a lot of these teams are trying to do whatever they can to lock it in. And I think every team is going to have at least one guy, and if that one guy can get a group of guys, you know what it's like. You get a negative group, and then you got to have the leadership to squash that, to make sure that doesn't seep into your locker room.
Well, this practice, of course, continuing here, and the first day of practice here at the OhioHealth Ice Haus. It's going to continue all week long. They went a little bit later in starting today, starting at 1 o'clock today. They're going to move that up to 11 o'clock, and some of that 1 o'clock today had to do with just the unknowns and the factors. Remember, these players have to come in. They've got to get tested. They've got to go through their protocols, and I think just to make it easier today, they went a little bit later, but they will go earlier throughout the rest of the week. I would expect that this kind of jump is going to continue through the week. I do want to ask you, before we finish up for today, we talked about Seth Jones on the defense, and of course that's the biggest story of the year is when he got hurt, as we talked about. But there were some other guys. Marcus Nudavara has had a down year. He's had some injury problems, and he hasn't performed like we've seen him perform in the past. And Dean Kukin is a guy that when Zach Werenski was out, Dean Kukin stepped up on the top pair, played very, very well. He was he really kind of made a mark for himself, and then he suffered a debilitating injury, and he was out for weeks on end, and he's finally back in the lineup now too. So there's competition from top to bottom. Ryan Murray, who has been injured a lot, he got back in there before the pause was all said and done. He's healthy. He's ready to play. There's going to be a lot of competition. We talked about the forward competition. There's a lot of competition on the back end, too.
Yeah, looks like Harrington and Nudavara are skating together. That means Kukin is with Ryan Murray. So, yeah, I mean, it's all healthy. You have 8D that are here with this lineup right now. 4 forward lines. They're pushing it, and it's a key part. I mean, they talk about the D of this team being the engine. They really are. I mean, if you got defensemen. If you're coaching a team, if you got defensemen that can skate like the Blue Jackets do, you get them up ice, working hard, driving that offense. It's such a tough thing to defend, and then they're back as a team. So, yeah, I agree, and I love this pair that's out there now, Gavrikov and Savard. I mean, they're that. When you think of playoffs, you think of 2 players like this. I mean, hard to play against, frustrate the high-end talent anytime they're on the ice. They'll do anything at any time. The things that you don't ask players to do, they do it, and it's the stuff that's not pretty and it doesn't score up. It doesn't show up on a score sheet, but you know what? It's stuff that's so effective and teammates appreciate. So there's intangibles throughout. I think every one of these D, of course, understands the battle that they're in, but there's some nice options, and I think that's a key for this organization. You've been here a long time, Bob, and I don't think you've ever seen these kind of options for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
No, and to take it a step further, a guy that he's played a lot here this year, maybe a little bit earlier than they thought that he might, is Andrew Peeke. And Andrew Peake's one of those guys that finds himself in the second group because when you have everybody healthy, he's number 9. And they're not looking at 9 right now. They've got 8, and that's enough for this camp.
Yeah, but I look at Peake and I think, okay, he didn't expect to be anywhere around this team this season, and he got the call because of injury. I look at him much like I look at Foudy. I think Foudy is thrilled. He's probably so surprised and so excited, of course, at his opportunity. I think Peake, is it what he wanted? No. Is it easy to expect it? Yeah. Is there something to look forward to and a reward? Absolutely. When you're a young player that gets the call and you didn't expect it, it lights that fire. And now you're in the non-playing group, and you're like, okay, I'm one injury away, or I'm one bad game away from being there. So it's different for a guy like Peake, I think, than it would be for Gerby or Stemlin.
And finally, I'm watching these the 2 goaltenders out here today, and they're, these guys are shooting from all over the place, and they're trying to light them up in the whole 9 yards. And remember, both Jonas Korpisalo and Elvis Merzlikins told us, in a couple of weeks, when the pandemic first hit and everything stopped, it would probably take them 2 weeks minimum to get back into game shape. And these guys are teeing off on them here today. And I know they've been out here skating with Manny Legacy getting ready for this. But, these guys, we can talk about all that other stuff that we already have, Jody. But to me, here's your key. How far are you going to go? These 2 guys are your key. And when I say 2 guys, it's very simple. If one is not playing well, the other can supplant him and go right in there. That's what we saw this year. Jonas made the All-Star game. He got hurt. Elvis came in. He got red hot. He got hurt just as Jonas was coming back off of his injury, and Korpisalo went back in. They have been interchangeable. Somebody's going to get the starting nod in game 1. If they can't handle it, the other guy's going to come in, and that to me is why it's going to be key, because they're going to approach it as a duo, not just as one guy.
Yeah, and we talk about, from time to time, we talked about this year how the way the Blue Jackets play really helped the goaltending. But when you look back at the games, there were key moments in each game where if you didn't have that save, if those goalies weren't on in that moment, I don't care if it was 3 or 1 save, if they didn't have it, the game would have been over due to momentum or the push by the opposition. So goaltending, you're right, it is a key. And in this series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know what? It's going to be tight. There's going to be some weak goals. There's going to be moments. But these guys with the Blue Jackets, if they can get in sync with the team in front of them and play that defensive style and get the goaltenders making those key saves, that's the formula. Key saves, key goals from unexpected players, and then, confidence. And I think you're right. The way that they've fed off each other, the way that when Korpisalo got hurt, Elvis stepped in and really it really was his coming out party in the National Hockey League, and then he beats Bobrovsky here at Nationwide Arena. So many great storylines. So it sets up for these guys to come in and be stellar and help this team achieve what they want to achieve here. And it's going to start here in 3 weeks, which they said 2 weeks, but you know what? I love the excitement of these guys. You talked about the one-timers these guys are taking, the players to the goalies. The goalies look like they're loving it. I mean, this is what they've been waiting for so long. I know Elvis had a tennis ball machine or something. He was getting shot at him. Boy, that must have got boring quick. So to have one-timers from Bjorkstrand and Bemstrom and Murray, you know, it's probably like it's a dream right now for these guys out there.
Yeah, as I think you put it very well at the beginning of this. They are back in their element. They're back where they want to be, back where they belong, and enjoying being back on the ice. It's mid-July as we get ready to wrap this up here today from the OhioHealth Ice Haus. It's unusual because normally at this time of the year when we're in this building, we're looking at a bunch of young draft picks, guys that were just picked in the draft, guys that were picked the year before, haven't had a chance to play in the National Hockey League yet. It's the prospects that are normally on the ice at this time of the season. But you see what's out here. The main NHL roster getting ready to go again.
Liam Foudy with a nice move there to walk out of the corner and put the puck past Elvis. I mean, you know, there's some great players in the National Hockey League. There's some great prospects, and you talked about the usual camp, but think about this. This is a team that's been together. This is a team that's had a break, like everyone in the league now. And you come back to practice, and you got 3 weeks to get ready for hockey that matters. You usually have to wait training camp, regular season to get this done. These guys are going to be able to finish the season. So the buzz around this is completely different. And when I see a guy like Foudy, okay, this is a guy that he's got the speed. He's got a little bit of NHL experience. When he came in and played a couple games, you remember he traveled back and forth. I think one was in Buffalo. He was all over the map, going back to junior. But he comes in here with more confidence than you could imagine from that experience. So you have to give the Blue Jackets credit for putting people in positions and allowing them to gain that experience. And I think he's been here skating, too, the past few weeks. So all valuable stuff that hopefully we'll see blossom here once this thing starts in 3 weeks.
Hey, before we go, can I get that shot again of Torts and Brad Larson talking on the far wall over there?
Sure.
I want to get that shot because look beyond them. See in the window right there? This camp is not open to the public.
Oh, yeah.
That's about as close as you can get right there. As you can peer in from the outside, mask on, of course. You can do that.
Yeah, she's actually outside the building.
Yes, yeah, she's not behind the glass.
No, she's outside the building, and then there's like 4 feet of the indoor rink, and then Torts must have noticed her. He moved there.
Yeah.
But then there's the glass and the ice. So yeah, that's an advantage here of having this nice daylight coming in on the Ice Haus, the OhioHealth Ice Haus here in Columbus. Right. We have. It used to be fun as a player to look outside and see, it's sunshine out today. Let's get practice over with and get outside.
Yeah, and so that's as close as you can get unless you're doing this with us, right?
They're closer than we are, actually. Yeah.
That's a very good point. But it's great to bring you inside. Great to have you here for this practice. And, again, we're going to do it again tomorrow. Jean-Luc Grandpierre will join me tomorrow. That one gets underway at 11 o'clock in the morning. So make that note, and we'll have it for you on the same channel so you will be able to watch this. Jody, thank you very much. Great job
pleasure.
here today.
Yeah, you too.
And it's great to be back. So good to be back here in the Ice Haus and watching these players, guys we haven't seen for months, and we can't wait to see how the story is going to unfold.
It seems like, we were waiting to see if this was going to happen. Like everyone else in the world, just it's amazing to be back. And again, I said it off the top, the energy from these players coming in here, it really makes it more exciting, doesn't it?
It does. It makes it much more exciting. And again, it's an unfinished story. We're finally going to get the ending to this story. We watched this team battle through adversity time and time again. Now they're going to have the opportunity to compete at almost full strength, and we're going to see how they're able to finish it off. So that's going to finish it off for us from here at the OhioHealth Ice Haus. Thanks for joining us on this Jackets TV Daily. It's brought to you by OhioHealth. Again, tomorrow I'll be joined by Jean-Luc Grandpierre. That'll be 11 o'clock in the morning when we will come to you live. Until then, for Jody Shelley, I'm Bob McElligott, and thanks for watching Jackets TV.